I call this meeting to order of the Operations Committee. The first order of business is the Operations Committee meeting minutes from January 24th, 2018. Are there any corrections or any concerns about these minutes? Seeing none, we'll take consensus, starting with Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
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 And yes. Next order of business is the Board of Education financial report for January of 2018. Mr. Barone?
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go through the B1 document, and you probably noticed we're projecting a significantly larger surplus this year, or this month, and that's primarily being driven by the excess cost grant. The states put their first estimate at our reimbursement, and that went up significantly by about $270,000. So that's going to help our bottom line, obviously significantly. The other real drivers are salaries. We're anticipating additional savings in the salaries, and our unemployment seems to have tanked. The unemployment was pretty high for the first 4 or 5 months, and now I guess folks are running out of, they're capping out. So I revised that estimate. Or getting jobs. Correct. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Could be, yeah. Either way, we're getting small bills right now, which is a good thing. So the net effect is it's about a $320,000 swing to the good for us. And so I think that obviously is pretty positive. We've had some minor changes in some of the other accounts. Benefits and transportation are really back and forth, not too much. And the only other, I guess, new item is the utilities. And this is the first month we're projecting the utilities, and we're projecting right now a small surplus. It's probably a little early because we got to see what February looks like, and it's a little difficult to project the oil because if they deliver it on the 30th or we pay them on the 30th. Versus the second, it's in one month or the other. But I figured I'd take a shot at it starting now, and then we'll see where it goes for the rest of the year. The electricity is coming in under budget, but the interruptible gas is going to come in. You're laughing. The interruptible gas is going to be over budget. We've made an adjustment for that in the next year's budget request. Any questions?
Mrs. McKay?
Yeah, can you just remind me, our 1% account from last year that we had monies put aside for special ed, is that been utilized, or is that still sitting tight?
We have not touched that.
And so, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so this projection is strictly on the current the operating budget that we adopted. The 1% fund for the special ed, and also we put some technology money aside. We haven't utilized that.
So what are the rules? Is there a time limit refresh my memory, when we do have to use that monies that we put? Obviously that was the 2017 budget, and was it about 700?
702, I think.
Yeah, about 700,000. I
Yeah.
thought it was about that.
Correct.
And yeah, what are the parameters on that ultimately?
The parameters on that, that's a non-lapsing fund, so that money is there. The biggest parameter would be you're allowed to take 1% of your current budget
Correct.
and put it in there. So I don't think that that would impact what we could put in that fund.
Right.
Any-
But
question-
my question
no,
is more concerned about, do we have to utilize that money by a certain date?
No, it doesn't expire,
Okay.
number one. And number two, we can request that it's used differently.
That was my
from
next
year to year.
question. I know
So we can do it from year to year. So we could go there and we could say
Okay.
that last year we had put it aside for special education. We'd like to maintain, say, $500,000 for special education, leave it there, but we'd like to reallocate
Okay.
$202,000. But the town council has to approve that change.
Right, and it's also important to note that if you did make a change, that would be for non-recurring purchases, or so those are opportunities just for the board, just to remember going you know, as we go through this budget process, and let's say by May or June, when we're really looking to figure out what we're looking to fund and how we're looking to fund it, and depending on where we are with special ed, that could be an opportunity for us to look at that. I just kind of wanted to refresh my memory, but also remind other board members, they might already know, but.
I just have a question about that. Are you allowed only to have 1% total in there, or is it 1%
No,
each
it's
year? that adds
1%
up?
each
Okay.
each fiscal year.
All right, thanks.
And I just want to point out, I believe this is a correct statement I'm making. We made the decision that it would only be for non-recurring expenses.
Well, that
Correct.
would be the
It's
prudent
not,
thing.
Well, it's-
right,
it's
oh,
actually
absolutely, I
written-
agree.
it's
But I'm
written
just
in-
saying, it's not something that's written
Well,
in
it's writ-
stone.
yes, it is. It's
Oh, it
written
is?
into the town ordinance that
Oh,
was
okay.
approved. We proposed it that way
Yeah.
because in our discussions
totally agree.
to negotiate it, we felt that that was in the best interest of the school districts,
Yeah.
that we didn't run into the problem that we had many years ago. Just out of necessity,
Mm-hmm.
people were using, the unencumbered funds to pay for reoccurring expenses,
Right.
which then finally caught up with us.
But Kathy, to your point, I don't think the state doesn't mandate that. You could, that 1%.
The state did not mandate
Yeah.
that.
Right.
We chose to have the town
Right, I just
ordinance
wanted it
reflect
known
that.
that we made that decision.
The state
And I
said
think-
you
and
can
I
use it
believe
for
it's the right
anything.
decision.
Which, yeah, no, we made that, as a board,
Mm-hmm.
we recommended that, our attorney drafted that language, and that was what was approved by the council.
Other remarks or questions on the financial report? Seeing none, we'll take consensus, starting,
Well, did you want to go over B2, or?
you don't, I think you just kind of,
Oh, I
I'm
would,
good.
I'd just add that we haven't received the revenue yet, so that's why there's
Right.
a large, under the tuitions, it's, the deficit is very large, because the money hasn't come in on
Right.
ECS.
Right.
We would expect 75% of that to come in by the end of the month, and then next month's report should reflect that.
any other comments? Mr.
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
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 Yes. And moving on to the cafeteria financial report for January 2018, Mr. Mencher.
Okay, I'd like to jump in just because I reformatted the report with Dave.
Oh, okay.
Put it together. So, just kind of, what we did was, that long landscape report was, we felt it was unwieldy.
We all knew.
Yeah, so, we thought about a different format, and this is what we came up with. It's really we think we simplified it, basically put one side of it shows the current month compared to the prior year, the prior year's month, and then the other side, the right-hand side shows year-to-date through January, both current year and prior year. Okay, that was the logic. Like to really get rid of, or not hand out that other large one, and we didn't hand it out. I have it here if you have a burning desire to see it, but I think I'd like to work off of this, this format. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so really, the way it's laid out, the income, put the income up top, the expenses, and then I broke out the reimbursement detail at the bottom, because the reimbursements are a little bit, some of them are handled differently, and I think this will give us better transparency as to really what's in our revenues. All right, we had a good month in January. It showed a profit of about 14,000. However, I would just say that number is a little inflated, because we did receive $21,000 in healthy foods, and that check last year we received that in both December and January. So really, what we're seeing is some timing where our December was underinflated, and this is overinflated theoretically if you compare it to last year. But we'll always, it's nice to see a positive number there. To break out the sales, the sales are down about $27,000, and we're attributing about 18,000 of that to the number of days in the month. There were 4 less days in December for sales, so obviously that's a significant part of it. And then we had probably $8,500 less in sales on that. And the sales, what we record up in the sales area there are the a la carte type sales, and the cash we collect on the reimbursable meals that are not purchased by somebody who's on free and reduced. So we have what we call the reimbursable meal, and if you're on a free or reduced, we get a significant reimbursement from the government, but some folks just pay that money. The next line is the reimbursements, and that's, again, that's a little bit overinflated because we've got 21,000 healthy foods. So if we could focus on the bottom half of this report where it shows the reimbursement detail, what I've broken it out to show you is the first three lines, fed lunch, fed breakfast, and state lunch. Those accounts, we recognize the revenue every month when we sell the goods, okay? So that's why, there should always be numbers in there, but they may vary in the amount. The state breakfast and the healthy foods, when we get reimbursement from the state, then we will recognize those revenues. And we do that because it's a little bit, we don't know when the state's gonna give us the money, and we can't always really calculate it, so once we get the check, we'll say, okay, we'll recognize revenue now. And that's consistent with what was done last year. Is that clear? And then in other catering, that's primarily the catering that the food services is doing. And the other thing I did was I broke out the Board of Ed contribution on its own line so we could, segregate that from between this year and last year. So that doesn't get commingled in with the other numbers, so it's a little more obvious. Any questions on the revenue or the income?
This is so much easier.
Yeah.
Oh, Ms. McKay.
Yeah, so, this is much easier, I agree with Tammy. So, just to be clear, I mean, and this is more for TV land because they don't have this chart in front of them. So we have not given any Board of Ed contribution this year for the current year, right? So that's an important thing to know.
Correct.
Versus last year, we gave like 38, almost 39,000. So that's a big difference.
Correct.
So my other question I wonder is, when I look down, I immediately saw the days served, that 4 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 4 days is, a lot. Our revenue is up. Is that a reflection of, I'm trying to remember our change in pricing. Is that just a reflection of our increase in free and reduced lunches? Why that revenue is up?
It's up because we received 21,000 in healthy foods.
That's the healthy
And
foods.
we only received
Okay.
6,800 last December.
Right,
if
I
you're-
see
if
that
you're comparing
difference.
those. But
Right.
If we had the, last January, if we had the December report, you'd see we received about 13,000 in December of 2016 and 0 in December of 2017. So, and that's why we spiked out the revenues or the reimbursements down here to really highlight what's going on with those accounts.
So the revenue increase is truly the healthy foods check. That's promoting that more than anything.
Correct.
If you were to look otherwise, basically, days served change, but the number of kids that are participating, well, that would be the next, I don't know, another.
Yeah, we'll go over that.
Yeah, are most things staying level other than that, or we can go over that when we go over that sheet?
We can go over that, but.
Okay, that's fair.
Typically when we get to C2.
That's fine,
I'll-
that's fine, I'm good
okay.
with that.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Any more questions on C1 or comments?
Well, I just want to talk about the expenses too, real quick, or maybe not real quick.
Oh,
but-
not real quick. okay.
No, either way, but you'll notice just payroll, we spent about 5,000 more this year over last year, and that's being driven by, simply there were 5 pays. The 31st was a Wednesday, and so there were 4 pays in the prior year. So that's really why, that we spent more there. The benefits is we're paying unemployment right now in this fund, and that's gonna continue probably for another month or two. And then we did really well on the food and the milk. We spent significantly less, and probably Dave has a lot more insight on that than I do. If you
Yes,
wanna-
that's once again 2 consecutive months in a row. My staff, my managers at Order Food did an exceptional job using the food that's on inventory on hand, and to run a 24 food cost is incredible, and hats off to them, and it's a nice statistic to look at.
Oh, Mrs. Raccio.
Dave, is that also because the elementary schools, the 8 elementaries are now doing online ordering so that you get the information immediate and have less waste?
I'm not sure I can agree with that. I don't think so. That's just more of a service end of it, I think, where it helps our central kitchen and our other central kitchen, Lyman Hall, the 2 managers that satellite the food out. I mean, it does help them. It's more efficient, but for saving money on food costs, I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
But otherwise, on the expenses end, like I said, the food cost was amazing to run that type of food cost. Based on the amount of sales that we brought in was excellent. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to hold that profit of the 14, even though we received the Healthy Foods check. Thank you, staff.
Yeah, right?
That's it on the expenses.
Anything else on C1? No? Okay, we'll move on to C2.
All right, so C2, we added a new column. It's called the per day variance percent, and what that's helping us do is really look at our trend, because when we compare by month, it's just it's not apples to apples. So, and it really, in January, when it looked like we were down 25%, it became obvious we had to do something. So, that was really driven by the additional days. So the per day variance is basically what we're doing is we're just taking the meal count in each month by the number of serving days. And that's really, you can see the trend. We were at 15%. We're down 15%, and we cut it down to 5. We jumped back up to 7.3% in November, and then we went back down to 5% in December. And now we're up a little bit to 6.89 in January. So we were trending in the correct direction, and I think we hit a little bump in January, and we're hoping that February comes in a little better. What I think we would like to do is to consolidate the meal counts onto the C1 and also eliminate the C2 document. And maybe for next month, what we can do is provide both a C1 with that information and a C2 to make sure it works. And if it works, then we'll have kind of one page with a lot of information on us that's I think easy to read and understand.
Any questions on C2? Move on to C3.
C3 is our participation report for each school. And once again, we are critiquing the current month that we're talking about in January, and we're comparing it to December. If you look at meals served free in the middle of the page on the elementary sector, we were actually, for the same amount of serving days, we were up 250 meals, which was nice to see. On the reduced status, we were also up 32 meals with the same amount of serving days. And our paid meals in the elementaries were down 373 meals for the month. Total meal count, we were down 91 meals for January. And the average meals per day was down 12 meals compared to December. Moving on, in the middle school sector, we noticed the same layout as we were up 41 meals on the free side compared to last month at the same amount of serving days. And the reduced, once again, we were up 16 meals. And the paid meals, like the elementary, we were down 181 meals. So it looks like there's a trend here for the last 2 months that the paid meals are down these last 2 current months. The high school, we really can't critique that out. Every January, as you probably know, is we have 4 serving days that our 2 high schools do not serve lunch, so we cannot compare it to December. And overall, the far right-hand column, the percentage, the 63% went down because, mainly because of the high school not serving those 4 days. It went down 2.3% on the total meals served with the free and reduced and calculations on that end. Any questions on the participation log? Okay. If you go to C4, my marketing plan that I've been following during the school year, not once again, like last meeting, I'm not going to go over every line item, but the one that stands out is, for both the elementary and the middle school, is the survey results with students and parents. And what the next step in that is I did the downloads on all the responses, and I mentioned to you all last meeting, we had about 700 hits, which was phenomenal to see, between School Messenger and some emails going out to the high school students. Got a great response, and I think I copied off about 61 pages worth of comments, good and bad, but what my plans and actions are is to take those responses and meet with my managers and come up with some plans and actions on how we could better the program with their suggestions. And a lot of compliments, actually, also, where instead of filling out the necessary questions that I gave them with 6 questions, they were very supportive of the staff that serves them and to recognize them. So I will definitely be reaching out to my managers and let them know that they are well-liked, and it's all good on that end. So it's nice to see. Otherwise, I'm following the marketing plan. It's an ongoing document, and so forth. If you continue on to the last document, C4 is the customer log that we use here in the district, and for the 3rd consecutive month, it was nice to see no incidents that were recorded. So, does anyone have any questions on the last 2 documents? Working hard. Managers are doing a great job, like I mentioned, controlling costs. Now the main focus is increasing participation, and we're working, we're going. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the cafeteria financial report? Seeing none, we'll take consensus, starting with Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
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 And yes. Is there any public comment this evening? Any public comment? No? Seeing none? This meeting is adjourned.